the time. So today we're going to talk about the email deliverability best practices and how to really get more out of your email strategy, right? And the reason why I want to pick up this topic is, we spend a lot of time on planning for the email marketing, and if you do not know what are the best practices that you need to follow, you may or may not be able to get the right results, right? Now, I've repeatedly seen this happening with hundreds of customers that we work with. Now, what are we going to talk today? I'm going to mainly focus on email deliverability, and of course, that's the main important topic. But in fact, everything goes hand in hand. Meaning, at a high level, we'll talk about what is reputation, what is compliance, and what is inboxing, right? So the deliverability meaning like when you are sending out emails, are they really going to the inbox or not, right? If they're not going to go to the inbox, then your email is not getting delivered properly. And that's what you really want to achieve, right? And that's what is called email deliverability, right? And the second thing is the reputation. So when it comes to reputation, so every server has got its own reputation. Similarly, every email server will have its own reputation. When I say every server, I mean the internet servers, yeah. So especially when you're sending out emails, you are being watched, meaning like the domain is being watched. And the IP address that's being used by the server is also, it's all constantly being watched by the recipient ISP servers, meaning like if you're sending out email, you may be sending out the business emails or personal emails. I mean, like you may be sending out business emails. Those are received by people in different organizations, or maybe you're sending out email to their personal emails, depending on whether you're in B2B business or B2C business. So every email is getting watched, and the recipient servers are actually looking at your content. What is the domain address? Where is this IP? Is it good or bad? What kind of content you're sending? Who are you sending to? All of those details are kind of captured, and that you build up your own reputation for the domain and the IP over a period of time. So it's important for you to make sure that your domain and the IP is not blacklisted, right? And compliance. As we are heading to 2020, and the decade now here, the compliance is getting tougher and tougher. Those days are gone where you can buy the email list and then send out emails freely to anyone. So now there are a lot of restrictions and the rules, especially by every country. You have to really follow those email compliance rules. So every country has got its own rules, and CAN-SPAM is for the US, and GDPR is for Europe, and similarly Canada and Australia, New Zealand, even some of the Asian countries, you would see the email compliance rules. So you will have to follow those. And finally, inboxing, right? If your emails are really going to go, if your emails are going to the spam folder, then what do you really have to do? What is inboxing? We'll talk about that at a high level. Okay. Now, the very first point, that's deliverability, right? There are 4 things that we really need to look at. One is the content, meaning when you're drafting out the email, the content should not be spammy, meaning there are certain words, so those are flagged as spammy words. You can find the list, maybe, there could be a couple of hundred spammy words. Those are the ones that you definitely would want to avoid. So how do you really find your content is spammy or not? There are tools available. I can show you one of the tools that we have at MassMailer. That way you can actually see whether the content is getting flagged and how you can really recognize the spammy words and what do you really do about it. Okay, so basically, the first and foremost thing is that you got to make sure the content is not spammy, whether it is the subject or the actual email body. Second point is the list. So if you're acquiring the list, if you're a marketer or a salesperson, maybe you're going to a lot of shows and you're acquiring the list, or maybe you're purchasing the list, right? Or maybe it's an organic list that you're capturing through your website. Whatever it may be, so ultimately the target list that you have should be very clean. It should not be having any invalid or bounces, or no spam traps, or maybe sometimes people are submitting your web form, but those are short-lived email addresses. So you'll find lots of stuff, especially if you're running a business. You will find that the email list that you're accruing is always going to be dirty, 30% to 40% of it. So the goal is to maintain the list, the target list that you're sending out emails to is always should be clean. So every 3 months or 6 months, you got to have a best practice, so you can actually clean out the entire list, if not just the new ones, right? New ones, of course, you got to keep cleaning it. The moment you acquire a list, make sure that you actually send out emails only to the valid ones. Okay. And then the third point and the fourth point, they go hand in hand. So if you're sending out an email from a domain, you would want to authenticate your domain. So what it means, I'm not really going too technical. So if you're sending out email from abc.com, so you got to announce the internet world, that you actually own abc.com. And how do you do that? It's via the DNS settings that you do it on the hosting server that your domain is hosted. Like if it's a GoDaddy or Bluehost or any web hosting server that you have your website put up, you would have to enter the DNS values. Those are public records. So the recipient server sees abc.com as the incoming domain. They will look up those public records and make sure that you have the authentic header. So when you're sending out email, you would also attach the header, the email header, and it's going to look up and it'll make sure that you actually own that particular domain, right? And also you got to link. The links that you're using should be branded against your own domain. So meaning anytime that you're sending out an email, all the links, if you have a link to your, say, website, or maybe a PDF document or a data sheet that you have, if you have those kind of links, then make sure that those are branded against your own domain. And the fourth point is the dedicated IP address. So the concept here is, basically, if you're using a marketing automation tool, many times you end up getting a shared IP address, meaning one IP address is being shared by several hundreds of thousands of clients. So what it means that if there are few, or many of those people or clients are sending out email, God knows what they're sending, and then if some people are sending out spammy emails, overall the IP gets affected. And if you're on a shared IP address, you're basically getting affected as well. So it's always hit and trial kind of a thing if you're using a shared IP address. And if you own a dedicated IP address, again, it'll come out clean because you are responsible for the emails that you're sending out. You're building your own reputation. Even though it takes a little bit more time, it is the right way to send out emails, especially if you're sending out mass emails or prospecting emails, right? And reputation, as we spoke earlier, so you need to make sure that your IP and the domain is not blacklisted. You can do all these sorts of things that we spoke about to make sure that you're not blacklisted, right? And if you're blacklisted for some reason, and if it's a genuine reason, then you can always contact the respective organization that has blacklisted your domain and the IP address, and then give them a proper reason why you're a genuine person. And then they would give you a time, like maybe a couple of weeks time for you to really work on those technicalities. And then again, if you follow the rules, then they will just let you go. Otherwise, they will again blacklist you. So it's basically to make sure that you're not blacklisted and continuously watch your domain and the IP address is the key thing, right? And the most important thing, which I think many customers have started following this, especially when you're sending out emails, those are marketing communication kind of a thing, you would always want to have an unsubscribe link and honor the opt-outs. So if somebody wants to unsubscribe, make sure that you just take them out, because you don't want to send out emails to those people who do not want to receive emails from you, right? So it's always better to just honor the opt-outs. Yep. And then talking about the complaints. So first and foremost thing, when you're actually having a list of contacts, right, those should be opted into your email list. And sometimes the businesses would follow a very strict opt-in policy, and sometimes it may not be possible for them to do that. So in that scenario, you can make sure that at least the list is clean, and then you can have a link for anybody to just unsubscribe from the emails. That way, you're still better off than not having an opt-in list at all, right? And then when it comes to unsubscribe thing, as we spoke just now, you got to make sure there's a provision in the email so that anybody can unsubscribe easily from the emails that you got. Okay. And it's always better to have a signature line. You should have a signature line in your email, whether it is a full signature, a partial signature. We always recommend that you have your name, contact information, company name, and the domain address and the company address, so on and so forth, right? So it's important to have a signature line. Okay? And then the email from, this goes hand in hand with the domain authentication. When you're sending out email, it should always say that the email is coming from your own domain, right? It is abc.com. So if you if you have a Gmail account, it would say the email is coming from via gmail.com, right? So instead, if it's a business email, it has to say that the email is coming via your domain, right? So you could achieve that by using the DNS settings. Okay? And then inboxing. What is inboxing? Basically, when you're actually sending out email, as I said, if your emails are getting into spam folder, you would want to make sure that you work on all these aspects. And also, one of the most important things that you should follow is keep on warming up your IP address and the domain. It's not that easy to do this, but again, the theory behind this is that you got to engage in a positive email activity in order to warm up. So there are multiple ways to do it. The cleanest way is to sign up for a service who would provide this inboxing, who is actually going to warm up your IP and the domain address constantly. As long as you're sending out emails, they got to be a continuous warm up of your domain and the IP address. That way, the other emails, marketing emails, or sales-related emails that you're sending out, they're actually going to get into the actual inbox. So that's called inboxing. Okay? And so now talking about MassMailer, again, it's not a full-fledged product demo as such. If you're interested, I'm happy to get into the more details. But my intention is to actually show you certain aspects of MassMailer that are very essential as email deliverability tools. That way you can keep your email reputation intact. But MassMailer itself is a native email solution for Salesforce customers. You can send single email, mass email, you can send email alerts, you can send it to any object, whether it's standard or a custom object. You can send file attachments as well. Right, that's what MassMailer is all about. And in today's demo, we're going to take a look at a quick walkthrough of MassMailer Outreach Wizard, and also I'll show you the kind of a little bit of a setup, how you do the domain and the IP, the DNS setting, and also how to really check the deliverability score, and a little bit of email compliance as well, right? So that's what we're going to take a look at today, and then we can get into the Q&A session. So this is Salesforce, as you all know, it's all in Lightning. When you install MassMailer, you would see certain tabs that you see here, right? So the email deliverability aspects to start with, I'll show you the first one, that is the email monitor. So what is email monitor? Using email monitor, you're actually testing out the email deliverability, meaning how good your email is, right? The email content especially, yeah? And your IP address and your domain, all of those things you're actually gonna look into, and what is your email deliverability score, right? So in order to get that report, what you would do, you would fill up this form with a sender name, sender email address. It could be, whoever is sending the email and what industry you belong to, and what would be the approximate list size, and which country you're actually sending emails to, and also what is the email template that you're actually using, and then what language that email template is written in, right? So you would select all these things, and then you would click on this test email deliverability button, yeah? So once you do that, you would receive a link in a few minutes time, and that link is going to give you the report. The report would look like this. So what you're looking at here is what is the overall deliverability score. So how much percentage of the emails are going to go to the inbox, and how much is going to go to the spam, and what is the problem, right? So this 17.68% is going to go to spam. Is going to highlight the actual the problem itself. So for an example here, it's saying that there are certain words that are not recommended. For example, avoid is not a word that is recommended, so it is one of the discouraged words, right? It's going to highlight what words are recommended if you should not be using avoid. Similarly, any other words that are problematic, it's going to actually go highlight that, and you can take a look at that. Anytime you have any questions, there's a help. Like if you click on this more info, it's going to give you the help for various aspects. There are a lot of guides available. You can dig into every aspect of the email deliverability, like for an example, the content, how to really write the vocabulary, and what is good, what is bad. And also you can look at the actual other best practices related to the content, reputation, the infrastructure, and the compliance. So there's a lot of help available right here. Okay? So basically it is going to highlight the problematic sections. One of them is the vocabulary in the scenario. So you would go take a look at it, and you make any modifications, and then your content would be better. Similarly, if there's any problem with the coding layout, it's going to highlight those issues in the layout, and you would want to basically fix any of the layout issues. And also, if you're using any links, if those links are bad, it is going to highlight those issues as well, that the links are bad. And then similarly, if you have any issues with the infrastructure, as we spoke about the domain and the IP address, if those are bad, it's going to highlight them, saying that those are blacklisted. RBL is basically blacklist, right? And you can also see the respective, if at all it's blacklisted, you would actually see which organization is blacklisted, and there would be a link to contact them. So you can straight away contact those people directly to remove the list. Okay, and also it's going to look at your SPF, DKIM, DMARC. So this is Sender Policy Framework. So again, this is all email infrastructure authentication framework that has been in place for the past 20 plus years. And you would want to make sure that you have the right SPF record to authenticate your domain. So basically authenticating your domain with the specific, the IP address. Okay. And similarly, you would want to have the DKIM record as well. This is domain keys record. And if at all there's any problem, it's going to actually highlight the problem. And the DMARC, again, it's one of the authentication, the policy framework, way in which you would want to have the right policy record set up for the DMARC. And that is something that you would do before sending out any mass email. So you got to make sure that your DMARC is set up properly, DKIM is set up properly, and SPS is also set up properly. Okay. And then compliance. So as you know, when you're sending out email, if you're using any links in your email, those domains may have some cookies, and those cookies could be bad. And you would want to see how those cookies are. If at all there's any problematic cookie, you would want to know what it is and then take any action against that. Finally, the preview. So when you're sending out email, how is this email gonna render? So the email client, I mean, right? So the recipient server should be using any sort of an email client. It could be a desktop, or it could be a mobile phone, or it could be a web-based system that they're using. So you would want to make sure that the email is rendering properly on those devices. So you would check out at least some popular email clients such as Apple Mail, Gmail, and iPhones and stuff like that, Outlook and all of that. So we do render them on various web clients, the desktop clients, and also some of the mobile clients. So you can check, you can request any of these things and then see how this is going to render on that particular client. And this happens in real time. Okay. So that's about the email monitor, which is basically very essential when you're sending out email to make sure you're following all the email best practices. Okay. And when it comes to the signature, since MassMailer provides a way to create your own template, so you could actually use the merge field. So let's say this is your, let's say, let me drag and drop an image, right? And then maybe you have some social things there. And let's say this is signature, yeah? And you want to have the signature such as your name and your phone number, and then your email address and your company name, and you can have your own the company domain and all that, right? Let's say this is something like a draft that I'm just preparing. So how do you make this a dynamic? So for which you would want to have your own signature field. That field is, the fields are coming from maybe the user fields, for example. Say, for example, this is company name, right? And you can have the user company name getting populated there. And similarly, the user name can come from the full name, user full name, right? And you can just populate this user full name right there. And similarly, you would have the phone number and the email address merge fields. And you can beautify this. It can have multiple columns here with your photograph if needed. You can always embed a photograph. For example, even though I didn't really drag and drop an image, assuming that you would want to have like another section there with your photograph. Let's see if I have my photograph. I'll just show it to you how to actually have an image. So I don't have a picture, so I can just go ahead and put a company logo here. So this is, let's say, this is a company logo that you want to have, and you can just left align that, and that becomes your, basically the signature line. So this is just to show an example that it's easy to prepare the actual the signature line using MassMailer Template Builder, right? Okay, so that's another feature that we have. And I don't have a demo for the email verification service yet. So that's that feature is coming very soon, through which you can actually verify and validate the emails that you have in Salesforce, and then those get suppressed automatically. So as I said, it's important to have the unsubscribe link, and also anything that gets unsubscribed or maybe something is bouncing, those should be suppressed automatically. So MassMailer has a feature through which you can actually have the suppression list maintained. So this particular email address is unsubscribed, and that is stored right within Salesforce itself, right? So that's how you're actually honoring the opt-out. And then the opt-out link can also be mentioned, what kind of an opt-out link that you want to have in the email, what kind of a text that you want to have, where you want to place all of that. There is a provision for you to actually enable the subscription tracking, and also you can have what kind of a opt-out link that you want to have in the email. So that's quite possible as well. Okay. So these are all various features through which you can be very successful in the email strategy that you have. Okay. And now, just to quickly show you the outreach wizard, how you can actually send out email using MassMailer. So you would go to the outreach wizard, and then it's a sequence of steps that you follow. One of the options that we have is the email, and down the line we're going to have the SMS and voice and WhatsApp as well. So you would select the target audience. Who are you actually sending out emails to? The specific target list view, which is actually going to list out all the emails. And then you would select a specific email template that you're going to use. So the email template can come from a specific folder, which is again maintained within Salesforce itself, and that loads up into the editor. You can make any changes to the template at runtime. So this is the kind of a template that we have. So let me just go delete this. And you can see various sections here. It's quite easy to just build out a template and make changes here. So for an example, you want somebody to contact you, you want them to send an email, you can just type in what email address they need to send email to, and the actual email itself, right? You can also mention what is the actual the color of this particular button, and what is the width of this button. You can increase if needed, whether it is right aligned, left aligned, all of that. You can make any changes, like a round thing. You can change that as well. So a lot of things that you could do for every single content item. So this is a text box, so you can have the font and the size and the board and all that, left line, all of those things can be mentioned here. And this is the video. You can also enter a video URL. It's quite easy. You just try to click on it, and you got to enter the video URL, and that's gonna basically just have a thumbnail image into the into your template. So when you're actually just gonna go enter that, it's gonna load up as a thumbnail, right? So that's how easy for you to actually embed a video. Okay, and this is a social, so you can actually add a new icon, delete an existing icon that is there. You can also change the way it is it's looking. The look and feel can be changed quite easily. You can add your own domain, like the actual value right there. Yeah. So this is kind of adding a thumbnail right there. And once you're done with all those changes, you can click on the save to save your work, and you go to the next step, and way in which you can upload files if needed. And then you can also have the sender options mentioned. It could be a logged in user. You can have a common sender that's coming from a setup, or you can also send it as a record owner, or you can also send it on behalf of someone. It can be a completely custom field, right? So various options for the sender. You can also add a CC field if needed. You can also do a BCC sender, BCC specific email address. You can do all of that, or BCC on every email. If not, you can just unselect everything and then go to the next step, right? And then finally, you're actually doing the delivery options, way in which you're sending now, or you can also schedule later, like a specific date and time. You can You can also select whether it is a transactional email or a non-transactional email, so you can like suppress the unsubscribe link as well. Okay? And then you can also suppress any list views if needed. You can also select IP pool. If you have multiple IP addresses, you can also suppress the email event logging. You can suppress the activity logging as well. You can also finally review all your work and make sure that it is properly drafted or planned the way you want it. You can also do a quick preview by clicking on this preview. You can also do a test email by selecting this and have a comma separated values and select the merge field. Finally, if everything is good, you just have to click finish so that email gets submitted. Everything gets captured within MassMailer into a specific custom record called custom object called outreaches, where you can actually look at your statistics, who sent email, who received it, what is the template you're using, and then the statistics information. Everything gets stored right there within MassMailer itself, right? So that's how simple it is to send emails from MassMailer. And of course, the deliverability tools are going to be very essential for you to make sure you're successful. Okay. So, any questions? Karmik, if you want to unmute and ask any questions, you can put it in the chat window.
Yeah, Shiva. So, guys, do you have any questions related to?
So there is one point where MassMailer keep IP and domain warm up using by engaging in positive email activities. So what does it mean actually? It's capturing the data from the customer through their anchors and their data which we send out through emails, or what does it mean actually?
Shiva, can you hear us?
Do you mind repeating that question, Dharmik?
So there is a one point mentioned by you keep IP and domain warm up using by engaging in positive email activities. So what does it mean?
Yeah. Sure. So when you're sending out email, what is happening? Somebody is receiving it and they're responding back to you. Let's say you're sending out to 100,000 people, yeah, and nobody even opened the email. What happens? The recipient servers are looking at the email activity and they'll flag that nobody actually opened it, right? So which means there's no a positive engagement that has happened. Which is essential if you really want to maintain a proper a reputation for the domain and the IP address. So you need to have more opens, you need to have more clicks, and how do you achieve that? And that's what is the inboxing. You can achieve these results when you're constantly warming up your domain and the IP address. Okay, so there are like MassMailer does provide this inboxing service through which we will constantly warm up your IP and the domain address. That's one of the services that we offer.
Yeah, I have one more question. So how is it different from Paradot? That Paradot is also an Oracle Locua, which also used for content creator, and MassMailer is only for mailing, right? Shiva?
Yeah. Currently it is just the email, but eventually we're gonna have the other outbound channels such as SMS and WhatsApp and voice as well.
So does MassMailer capture the data with the engaging customers with their email inbox? For example, Padot is capturing data through their activities, like dynamic activities. If they click on that particular product, the Padot sending out their email address, their product preferences on through. So does it also capture in MassMailer?
Yeah, we do capture all the email activity. Again, I did not really demonstrate that thing. I'm happy to do that. So you look at the contact object, right? And we have all the email status values that get captured right within the contact lead or any object for that matter. You will see the specific event and also the actual time, and what email the event is related to. All of that gets captured right here. So this is called MassMailer email status. And similarly, we also store the activity history as well, which is a Salesforce standard activity history. Okay.
Yes.
Any more questions?
So, can you ask, does this have rate recipient? Like, if someone has opened the email or not, do we get that status?
So Siva, do we get read recipients in MassMailer?
We have the open. So when somebody opens the email, we assume that they read in the email, right? We do capture the open, and we capture various other email events such as unsubscribe, click event, group unsubscribe, spam report, various other events that we capture.
Guys, do you have any other questions?
Yeah.
No, Siva.
Okay. All right. And if you guys are interested in MassMailer, you can again take a look at our website, massmailer.io. So the pricing is based on the per user per month, and also we have another. Sorry for that. So you can actually also figure out how many emails you're actually sending out per month, and based on that, the pricing is going to change. And if you want to try, give a quick trial of MassMailer, go to our website and then click on the 15-day free trial link, and then you would receive an email with installation steps and everything. Okay? And any questions that you have, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to answer any questions. This is my contact information, siva.devaki@massmailer.io. Shoot me an email. I'm happy to clarify your questions.